Alright, welcome back ladies and gentlemen to the Chupacabra Tutorials channel. I'm your host, Larry the Chupacabra, and today we're going to talk about how to set up and use the action recorder by the company called Marillis. They make a number of other things, including remote PC controllers and remote controls for TVs and stuff. I mean, digital ones that you put on your computer and stuff, and also one that can remotely control this program. So, I have done a fair bit of testing of Action, and I have found it to be a pretty robust and very easy to use recorder. It runs about $20 to $30. It's actually pretty inexpensive, and it's got a whole host of features, so you won't be left wanting for anything that you need, including recording your desktop, streaming, recording gameplay, all of that stuff really easy to do right here from the interface. So the first thing that you'll see when you load into Action is over here on the side, this is your little gallery of all the videos that you've recorded. And you can click on this button here to go straight to the folder that they're kept in so that you can, edit them or move them around or whatever with other programs. And then over here is the little panel that controls all of your settings. And this big red button down here, when you are able to record, will allow you to manually stop and start recording. So at the top here, these are the different modes that Action has. This is the primary bread and butter for most people. This is the tab that has the games recording or the video recording. Over here for live, as I'm sure you would recognize, this is for Twitch streaming. This allows you over here to do just straight audio recording so that you can just record your voice or the voices of anyone else on your computer at the time if you want to record some type of podcast. Then you've also got the ability, and this isn't something that you see in a lot of game recorders, you have the ability to do a benchmark test while you record your games so that you can see whether or not, it's the game holding you up or something else that's making your recordings all jittery and shitty. Next, you've got the screen capture options. And then finally, all the little nitty-gritty options that control each individual component of the software here under the Settings tab. So we'll just get started with my recommended settings for the video recording, because this is going to be a complete Action recording setup tutorial. So the one thing I really like about the different sections is whatever hotkey that you need to start or stop a certain type of recording or another function inside of Action is placed right up here at the top of the screen. So in this case, the recording key by default when I loaded in was F9. And then down here, you've got the 4 different recording mode types. You've got video games, which I will assume is the primary recording mode that most people that pick up this recorder will want to use. And the way that this works is it auto-detects things that run DirectX or OpenGL. And those are the 2 primary frameworks that graphics and games are built on the Windows platform. Next, you've got the ability to just record whatever screen you are currently have your mouse cursor active in, and this actually works pretty okay with multiple monitors from what I'm told. Next, you can record a very specific region of the screen so that you can record just a small corner if you just want to show people a video or something, or you can make it, record most of the screen so that you can, say, cut off the bottom menu bar like I've got at the bottom of my screen. And then the last one is over here, you can select a specific application window in the event that, the application might move around your screen and you don't want to have to reset up your recording window every time, or you don't want to constantly crop out the spare space in the background in case you want to get rid of your desktop or something. So if you select that, you just select the application down here at the bottom. But I'm going to leave it on the recording mode for video games. And then let's talk about the rest of these settings. So the first the main setting you want to learn about is file format. And this is something to do with the codec that this program is going to use to record your games. Now, it seems like the most efficient codecs that you can use are either one of these down here. For me, I'm on an NVIDIA system. I have an NVIDIA graphics card. So these are 2 NVIDIA-specific codecs that use the onboard recording on my graphics card in order to do the recording, which means I will see no performance drop while I'm recording anything on this computer. So the most efficient ones will be these two, followed by AVI, which is a Windows file format. But the one that I would honestly recommend if you don't use one of these two is to try and see if you can manage using an MP4 to record, because MP4 is one of the most widely used universal codecs or file formats, so that every program that you use will run it. Now, it should be noted, if you want to go over here in the gallery and edit your videos, the only thing that Marillis, the action by Marillis, will recognize for its kind of built-in trimming tools is the AVI format. Don't ask me why, it's just one of the little specifics of the program. I would definitely, if you have an NVIDIA or AMD equivalent, I would be very careful about using this codec down here, because this is an ultra compressed DVD like format for MP4, and not every single type of video editor can handle it. So this is the NVIDIA NVENC HVEC codec, and basically what this is, it's like this other one, but it's just hyper compressed, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's really nice, and I've used it quite a bit when testing out the program. The trouble is, like, even Premiere Pro, which is what I use that actually accepts it, sometimes has a couple hiccups using it. I don't know why, but just be careful when using that. Not everything can handle that, but definitely everything can handle videos recorded with the NVIDIA NVENC or the AMD equivalent. So I'm going to leave it at that. Next up, video size. Now, much like a lot of other recording softwares, technically speaking, Action is capable of recording 4K video. By clicking on the original size, it'll take whatever your computer is currently running at and your game is currently running at, and it will try as best as it can to record at that size. If you're having weird issues doing that, or like something's happening with the video, it looks all glitchy, or it's laggy, or something else, I would recommend downgrading it to something like a standard size for places like YouTube, which is 1080p or 720p. Next up, let's look at video frame rate. So this you can set up as high as 120. I definitely don't think you need that high a frame rate, and certainly places like YouTube don't support it. But if you want to create like cool slow motion videos, like for montage and export out the video later, that would definitely give you the ability to do that. But here's the spiel I give to everybody on every single games recording software that I've ever done a tutorial on, and that is, when you're testing out the game, you'll have, or the recorder, because this has a demo that you can download for 30 days, is you'll have this thing. If you look in the upper corner of my video editor, the reason why I have the video editor in the background instead of just like a basic wallpaper or something is because the preview window shows what the HUD of the Action recorder looks like, and it'll actually give you a readout of what your current frame rate is. If you can't get a stable frame rate of over 60, don't record at 60. I know you want to be the PC Master Race and all that jazz, but it'll look weird and shitty when you finally upload it to YouTube and it gets recompressed. So if you're getting under 60, leave it at 30 FPS. If you're getting like a gajillion because you've got a new GTX 1080, then definitely put it at 60, and you can even experiment at doing 120. Now, one thing that this software has across the board is it has the ability to let you set a duration for all of your recordings, especially because a lot of people out there, when they first start recording, they have a tendency to set and forget. And what this allows you to do is, if you have concerns over your video taking up too much space, you can set a dead spot where it like ends after so many minutes, so you don't have to worry about it running on and on and on and you forgetting about it. I don't really use that, so that's up to you to determine, how long you want your recordings to be if you want to set a set duration for things like, say, a montage clip set. Next thing is your microphone settings. This has the ability to set either a push-to-talk key, a toggle key, or you can set it to always record, because for my recordings, I use Adobe Audition to edit out my audio after the fact so that it sounds beautiful and delicious. You can also set it up, although currently it's not detecting my webcam, it also allows you to enable and select your webcam. And for whatever reason, if you're seeing like a weird time delay or something, you can set it up so that there's a small millisecond time delay especially when you're doing the live streaming. But I don't necessarily recommend using that. Generally, if you have a reason to use a time delay, someone in like a support forum somewhere or somewhere else has recommended it to you. So that's a feature that you can use if you think you need it. So next up, we've got the live streaming section. This is all pretty straightforward. You just click on things to enable action to live stream. You can also record a second copy of your streams to the disk. And then you can also set it to auto reconnect if you have connection problems. And these are pretty straightforward. You can set what video size you want to stream at, set frame rate. Although one thing that I don't like about this is the bitrate controls. So places like Twitch, they don't like you streaming too far above 3.5 megabits per second. I think they let you get away with up to 6 on like up to 6 megabits per second if you're partnered, or maybe higher if you're partnered, but they definitely don't like you going super duper high. And when you select 60 FPS, the basic line for that is 6 megabits per second, which is at the point where they start to get mad at you. So definitely be careful with that. But really, just select the bitrate that you want. I don't recommend going too much higher than like 3.5. That's what Twitch recommends for their service. But it's really going to depend on what streaming platform you prefer to use. And with places like YouTube, YouTube just doesn't give a shit. Send YouTube as much data as you can, and they will hork it down. Next up, you can select what service that you've got. You can either stream to one of the primary ones, or you can input the server URL and stream key for a custom service, but pretty much all of them require you to manually enter a stream key. I know that other recorders and streaming programs allow you to just log in through the program. This doesn't let you do that, but this is pretty straightforward. Just select the service, tell it what server you want it to use. In this case, I'd have to paste in a server for YouTube, put in the stream key, and you're good to go after you hit Control plus F9, which is the default key for that. Next up, you've got audio recording. Basically the same format as the push-to-talk thing that I was talking about before. I like to record all of my audio-only audio in an uncompressed WAV format, which is a very easy-to-edit format. And if you had to use someone else's help to edit this, this would be the format that they'd want you to send stuff in. Again, you can set a duration that it runs before it stops. You can set up if you want your microphone to always record, only on button down, or toggle. And then one of the things I like is allow multi-channel audio recording. If you're recording with somebody else and you want to make a podcast, it's very nice to be able to edit the two audio tracks independently, because that way you can edit for each person's individual voice and what's going on with their microphone, but you can disable that if you don't have the capability to edit audio. And then, of course, just so that the audio isn't a weird duration, so that it doesn't just like automatically cut like a snap of a fingers between people talking, so there's like a natural break between thoughts and words and sentences, I recommend telling it to record the audio. Next up, you've got benchmarking. Benchmarking is nice to see what your game is doing. It just kind of gives you a readout, like a little log sheet that you can see what's going on with your computer while you're running a game or anything else. I haven't used this too much, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It'll tell you what's going on with benchmarks over here in this side panel. Last but certainly not least is the capture screenshots functionality. If you want full, like as much quality as possible, I'd suggest using a PNG. If you want to save some space and you don't care, use a JPEG. And a bitmap file is probably not something that you need to use. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Like, Photoshop uses it, but it's not a very good format. Use PNG or JPEG. And then you can get down here into the nitty-gritty. You've got the different settings. This is the general settings, so I set it to automatically check for updates. You can tell it to have this open on top of other stuff. Start minimized. You can have it hide it when you start recording to your desktop, all this sort of stuff. Change the language. Now, what I like to do is I like to have it so that my video recordings are also in a multi-track format. So in order to achieve that, I need to go over here to the audio, and I want to tell it to record system sounds, but I don't want it to record the system sounds in a multi-track format. Really, what I want it to do is, well, one of the things is go over here in video and set it to high quality, bitrate to hot to max, full color range, use multi-core recording, because this is great for if you have a huge computer. If you have a slower computer, don't mess with this. And then, depending on what kind of game you're wanting to play, it's a very good idea to have your mouse cursor recorded, because especially for like a real-time strategy game, if they lose track of your mouse cursor, people aren't entirely certain what the floop you're doing. But let's see here. Under microphone settings, what I like to do to get my regular game recordings to be multi-track is I tell the microphone settings for the whole of the program to record my microphone in a separate audio track. If you tell both of these to record a multi-audio track, it won't do it, and it'll actually fuck up your recording. So only enable this multi-track recording or this one. Preferably this one, or else it'll cause errors. But the rest of these settings are, you tell it what your audio device is. It's important to go through each of these tabs and make sure all your different devices are selected. You can tell it what the default volume will be for this device. I leave my microphone, because I've got a big powerful Blue Yeti, at about 50%. And then you can set the audio balance down here so that you can kind of slowly reduce or slightly reduce the background volume of other things running on your computer so that you don't have to re-edit the volume levels when you get outside the game. And then down here, you can set a microphone delay, but again, usually there's a reason for that, and if you don't have a good reason, don't mess around with that. And then these buttons will just set everything back to the default settings, the ones that kind of look like a little cross icon or something. Over here in audio settings, you definitely want to set it to record your system sounds, because otherwise people won't be able to hear what your gameplay sounds are like. Always set your audio bit rates as high as they can go. AAC is basically just an MP4 audio bitrate. It's the audio codec that's used inside of an MP4 video. And so you just want to set this as high as you can, because that's basically the higher the number, the more quality will be controlled and recorded inside of your videos. And then, of course, to make sure that there's no errors happening, that it's recording audio from the right device, be sure to select the audio device that you're currently hearing your game sounds with, as opposed to something else. Mine is just a G35 gaming headset. Alright, so for the webcam portion, I made sure that my webcam was behaving itself and restarted the software. And to enable your webcam to be on both your recordings and what have you, you simply click on this little button, select it from the drop-down. Some people record on laptops or computers with built-in webcams in their monitors, so you gotta be careful that you're using the correct one. And then you mosey on over into the settings tab and you go into the webcam setup. So when you're recording with this, my preference, if I was going to use mine, would be to set it up to always record, and then to have it record at the highest sort of quality rating that it possibly can, even though you might, downscale it with these settings down here, because it just looks crisper when you record at the fullest resolution possible with your webcam, and then downscale it so that it fits better into your video. So let's see here. Let's do even though this webcam isn't really pointed at my face, it's kind of pointed at the ceiling right now. I'll have to move it later. You can basically change the location of where it is. You can either have it set up so that you can do just a webcam recording, where it'll just record your face and you can do like a vlog or something, or you can have it set so that it hangs out in one of the corners. And then you can manipulate like the size of it in case that's too big. You can see I actually got a green screen back here if I wanted to use this correctly. And then you can use these two sliders, and this isn't ideal, to change the position of where it hangs out on the screen. And you can even kind of have it hover just off of the corners like some sort of bizarre try-hard. And there you have it. That's pretty straightforward. And should you have a green screen, it has a chroma key built in. Let me actually try and move this at my green screen. There we go. And then let's see about using the chroma key. Well, it kind of does it automatically. Does it see my hand? No, it does not see my hand. But let's grab that green back there, and it should see... Well, basically, when you're using the chroma key, let's turn that off. You grab the eyedropper, and you select a color inside of the webcam's point of view that you can then use as your color. You can also manually select the color, but that's really janky, and I don't recommend doing that. And then you can mess with the threshold and the blend. So the threshold is like how much of the color it's looking for before it starts like blending into other colors, looking for more of like a green or a blue or what have you. And then the blend is where it like softly fades from transparent to a solid object. And then you can learn more about using an alpha mask by clicking on this little button down here. I won't get into too much detail for that because that's kind of complicated. That's something that you can play with. There's a lot of great information about that on the web for multiple different programs. And Action has a great little manual, so I suggest running through that if you need any help with all that. So another thing that you can do is you can use overlay graphics, and that's where you create like an overlay for use in streaming, or you can even use it inside of recording in this, I believe. And all you gotta do is you click on this button, find the file you want to use, the transparent file that has all your stuff in it, and then you can tell it where you want it to be anchored from based upon the size of the image. Basically, when you get somebody to make you an overlay, it should be in a 1920 by 1080p sized file already, so you should only have to anchor it towards the top left or the top right, and then you should be kosher and good to go. Even though 90% of the image is probably transparent, you always want to have it in that because it's just easier to work with. You don't have to drag stuff around, you don't have to screw around, it's just a lot easier to get started and get going. I don't really use overlay graphics, or when I do, I stream off my laptop, so I don't have those on hand to show you, but it's really easy. Just make sure it's the right size, anchor it to the top or one of the top corners, and you're good to go. By simply saying, yeah, use the thing. After that, we go over here, and this is the HUD settings. So that's, you'll see this little HUD here in the upper corner. This is basically controlling where this HUD is going to show up. If I want it in the upper corner, bottom corner, wherever. I like the upper right corner. That's just a good place for it to be, and it's a lot easier for me to move stuff out of the way of it in game HUDs than it is to put it like in the middle, because that can be distracting. You can also have the HUD show your free disk space. You can have it show recorded webcam preview. You can have it hide the HUD during action startup. You can do all sorts of stuff. That's pretty self-explanatory. Then you've got the export settings. So use hardware acceleration for video encoding is always a good idea. This just means that when you export these types of videos to something that you can then put up onto YouTube directly, it'll re-encode them using hardware encoding when possible. An export mouse cursor, I always say yes. If it's recorded, you might as well show people because it helps them understand what's going on in the video. And then I don't really use mouse click visualizations. What that does is it puts like a little animation, like a little exploding circle around your mouse cursor as you record. And then I just have it export the videos just to my Larry video folder. Handy dandy wimby wamby. And then you got you can easily turn on and off your hotkeys and change them here. And that's basically everything that you really want to know for Action. You can use this gallery to directly upload stuff onto YouTube if you'd like, but I don't necessarily do that. I edit all my stuff, separately, but you can really quickly preview your videos to see if you need to change anything in them. Like you can see, we recorded some Heroes of the Storm as a sample. Looked at, we were in queue for like an eternity, but you can kind of see what it's like. You can kind of listen to some of the audio. What was this? We recorded something. Oh, this was like a WoW preview. But you can see that you can easily test them. And then if you record in the .avi format, like I did here, you get the option to use this little up arrow here, which has a special export window that's only available for AVIs. And this, you can adjust the video bitrate before you upload it. You can decide what audio track you export. which is really annoying because you can't do more than one. You have to just pick one or disable them. And then you can change the video size. It's kind of like a mini edit. You can edit like the parameters and the settings of the file itself, but you can't like clip it or trim it, which is, it's whatever. And then you can change the preset. You can just have it export as an HD video. So this will actually just encode it from the AVI into another format like you saw with the encoding. I told it to encode in the NVENC format with MP4 because it's the fastest, most efficient way for my computer to do that. And then you can even tell it if you want the audio in stereo or 5.1 surround sound, and it'll tell you roughly the size the video will be when it's exported. And that's pretty much the whole thing. You can natively upload this stuff directly to Facebook or YouTube, and that's the whole kit and caboodle. The eye icon shows you your licensing tab that tells you who it's licensed to, where you can input the key if you purchase one. And then this button just takes you to go to the manual where you can read more in depth about each one of these settings. So again, I'm going to try and break this up with little links in the video description to tell you where every little piece of the video is so you can quickly jump between each section. But again, if you want to record gameplay videos where the audio is separated out into 2 tracks, simply enable your microphone here in your video settings, go to the gear, go to your microphone settings, and set the volume to record microphone into separate audio track. And you're good to go. So that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining me for explaining and setting up Action, the games recorder that can also record your screen and just raw audio so that you can make cool podcasts. This is basically the whole nitty-gritty, top-to-bottom sort of tutorial. If you need a more specific tutorial on anything that I've gone over, feel free to ask me in the comments below. Or if you have any general-purpose questions or you need some clarification on anything here, again, just throw that in the comments and I'll do what I can to help you out. I've actually made this my secondary recorder in case I need to use it to, well, I need to use a recorder to something to record me talking about OBS settings, and you probably wouldn't want to use OBS to do that because OBS gets an opinion when you try to fiddle with settings as you record. So that's part of why I picked this up. It's a relatively inexpensive program. It runs between $15 to $30 depending on like a sale during holidays. And you really only need a personal license. They have something about corporate license that I picked up, just to be sure. But the only thing that the corporate license really gives you is the, like, a bunch of extra support. They'll resend you your key if anything ever happens to it. And you can, at any time, re-download the latest Action. But you can do that already, which is weird. So, yeah. Action. It's relatively inexpensive. It's a very full-fledged and robust recorder. It doesn't lag you that bad. In fact, it didn't lag me at all, especially when you use the built-in NVENC recorder for NVIDIA. So I definitely recommend it, and I hope you guys and gals out there in Pan-Dimensional Demons have gotten some educational value out of this. So until next time, I've been Larry. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and toodaloo, everybody.